Joining us now, CBN News Senior White House Correspondent Kelly Wright and Nathan Gonzales, editor and publisher of Inside Elections and a Faith Nation contributor. Gentlemen, welcome. Kelly, you know, this is hitting people really hard, for people who loved Charlie, for people who didn't, but were horrified by how his life was taken from him. For conservatives, for Christians, people who shared many of his beliefs, it has been a really, really heavy week. The outpouring, massive. The gospel has been shared a lot. The Trump administration, Kelly, honored Charlie at the Kennedy Center this weekend. What can you tell us about that and the other things the White House is doing to remember Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, Jenna, good evening to you. It hits very close to home and hits hard here at the White House for the Trump administration. Keep in mind, the president called Charlie Kirk a personal friend of his, almost like a son to him, and he will be awarding posthumously the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk, as well as attending his funeral. In addition to that, you mentioned Vice President J.D. Vance hosting the podcast today from here at the White House in tribute to Charlie Kirk, his friend, a close friend. He said everyone in this building, referring to the White House, owes something to Charlie. And he added that Charlie was a joyful warrior. He loved America and devoted himself tirelessly to making America better. And he added that Charlie Kirk was a critical part in getting Donald Trump elected as president, and of course himself as vice president. It's very palpable here what's going on, and many people from the Trump administration speaking at the Kennedy Center last night, including Caroline Leavitt, who thanked Charlie Kirk for all that he deposited in her in terms of her faith and her politics, as well as her love and hope for America.
You know, Nathan, there's of course a lot of grief. There's a lot of anger as well. Democratic Senator John Fetterman was saying that it's time to turn down the heat. He says his party needs to stop using words like Hitler to describe political opponents. House Democrat Sarah Elfreth also says the country is at a boiling point. Nathan, your thoughts on these statements, and do you think we will see some of this rhetoric tamped down?
What we're seeing is an incredibly tragic and horrific killing of Charlie Kirk, mixed with the previous reality that we had, is that the Democratic Party doesn't have a clear leader, they don't have a clear message, and the Democratic Party has been divided on all sorts of issues. And this is just the latest issue with even more intensity. And so Fetterman, you have a senator from a swing state who is trying to fashion himself as a little bit more of a moderate, with a younger congresswoman. Congresswoman Elfreth is 37 years old, and I think ready to be a little more upfront, or at least she is part of the Democratic Party that is confronting the reality that Democrats have tried to respond in a human and sympathetic way, even to someone that they don't agree with, and yet Republicans are coming back at them and saying, you did this, you murdered him, you're the problem. And so that's where the Democrats are trying to wrestle with, all right, we're trying to bring down the rhetoric, but we're just being met with words of confrontation and war by some Republicans.
Yeah. You know, we are learning more about the alleged assassin. We played that soundbite from the governor at the top. Utah governor, he says, Spencer Cox, he said that Tyler Robinson was living with his boyfriend, who was transitioning from male to female. You know, of course, the trans issue is one of the many hot button issues that Charlie would talk about on these college campuses and debate. FBI Deputy Director, Dan Bongino told Fox News this morning that Robinson had what he said an obsession with Charlie Kirk. You know, all that to say, the governor is saying that they're not ready to release any kind of motive yet, because Robinson is not actually talking to investigators at this point. But your thoughts, Nathan, in light of all of the things that are coming out and that we're starting to learn?
We need to be ready for the reality that Robinson's motives are going to be far more complicated than what we are comfortable with or used to dealing with. That when someone comes to this point, to making this terrible decision to take someone's life, that they are dealing in a different world of reality that probably lacks some logic. And I think what's frustrating is that even before we knew Tyler Robinson's name or knew who did this, Republicans, including President Trump, really jumped to conclusions and started to use language like they did this, they killed him, and when even now we don't even know whether it was more than just him who allegedly did this. And so There was evidence of him being, having left-leaning views, but there's also evidence that he may have criticized Charlie Kirk he might not have been conservative enough. And so I think this is just going to be more complicated than what we want to see.
Nathan,
and Jenna, real quickly, if I could add to what Nathan just discussed right there and described in terms of what's unfolding in America, a lot of people on both sides are saying enough is enough. It's time to come together and bring some unanimity and understanding that we have to stand together. And that's really what Charlie Kirk wanted. That's why he opened up things for debate, to have a conversation with people, albeit that some people may not have agreed with him. But the bottom line is, as we've heard from the top of this program, is that he dedicated his life to loving his faith, defending his faith, and using that as the precipice for helping people understand, the foundation for helping people understand each other.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Kelly and Nathan, thank you both.